You didn't lose that promotion because you weren't ready. You lost it because 3 weeks before the interview, you suddenly got too busy to prepare. That wasn't bad luck. That was your brain, working exactly as designed. Here's what this video actually gets into. Not affirmations, not just believe in yourself fluff, but the actual wiring behind why capable people quietly torpedo their own goals, and the specific mechanism that makes it happen without you ever noticing. But before I show you the fix, you need to understand the one thing almost nobody explains correctly about this: that self-sabotage isn't a confidence problem, it's a safety problem. Every guru on the internet will tell you self-sabotage means you don't want success badly enough. Try harder, rise and grind, visualize it, which is hilarious, because the people saying this are usually selling you a course to fix a problem they've badly misdiagnosed. Picture the classic case. Someone spends 4 months building a business plan, obsessively perfecting the logo, the website, the color palette, and never actually launches. Everyone calls that procrastination. It's not. Procrastination is when you forget to do something. This is different. This is your brain actively choosing not to know the answer, because not knowing feels safer than finding out and being wrong. That's the whole trick. Self-sabotage isn't the absence of effort, it's effort, redirected toward protecting you from a risk that was never actually life-threatening in the first place. So why does this matter to you? Because you've probably called yourself lazy or undisciplined for something that was never about discipline at all. Your brain doesn't run on logic. It runs on threat detection, built for a world that mostly doesn't exist anymore. No lions, no tribes casting you out to starve. Just Tuesday afternoons and unanswered emails. And your brain treats those two situations almost identically. Self-doubt isn't the opposite of confidence. It's a symptom of a brain doing its job a little too well. Now let's talk about the part nobody explains, the actual mechanism running underneath all of this. Your brain has one job above all others: keep you alive by keeping you predictable. Success and failure both threaten that. Failure risks embarrassment, and embarrassment, to a brain built on tribal survival, once meant exile. But success? Success changes your identity, your relationships, the expectations people have of you. And change, to your nervous system, looks a lot like danger, even when it's the good kind. This is why fear of success is real, and it's just as common as fear of failure, even though nobody talks about it. Think about the person who finally gets in great shape, gets noticed, gets uncomfortable with the attention, and quietly starts skipping the gym again. Nothing failed. Something worked. And that was exactly the problem. Here's where it gets interesting. Underneath both fears sits something even more basic: a limiting belief. A quiet sentence running in the background like, "People like me don't get opportunities like that." You never consciously agreed to that sentence. It got installed years ago, probably before you were old enough to argue with it, and your brain has been protecting it like evidence in a trial ever since. Because here's the twist nobody mentions. Your brain isn't trying to make you happy. It's trying to make you right. If you believe deep down that you're not the kind of person who succeeds, your brain will unconsciously create situations that prove that belief correct. Not because it's cruel, because being wrong about yourself feels more dangerous than being unhappy. That's confirmation bias, and it's not just a marketing term. It's a survival tool aimed directly at your own identity. I remember sitting in a parked car for 20 minutes before a job interview I'd prepared for over 3 straight weekends. Engine off, hands still on the wheel, telling myself I just needed 5 more minutes. Those 5 minutes cost me the first 10 minutes of that interview. It wasn't nerves, it was my brain negotiating for an exit. This is the part that separates people who eventually break the pattern from people who spend a decade blaming circumstances for it. Now add perfectionism into the mix, and the trap gets airtight. Perfectionism feels like high standards. It's actually fear wearing a nicer outfit. If the plan is never quite finished, it can never be judged. And if it's never judged, you're safe. Procrastination works the same way, just lazier about hiding it. Delay long enough, and you get to blame time instead of talent. Negative self-talk is the maintenance crew for all of this. Every "I'm not good at this" is a tiny vote cast for staying exactly where you are, because familiar discomfort has a predictable ceiling. And predictable, even when it's painful, will always feel safer to your nervous system than uncertain, even when it's better. Comfort zones aren't really about comfort, they're about certainty. That's a very different addiction. So how does someone actually break this loop? Not with a to-do list, with a shift in how they relate to the fear itself. Imagine someone starting today. First, they wouldn't try to eliminate the fear, because that's a losing game, and chasing it wastes years. They'd learn to act alongside it instead. Fear shows up, sits in the passenger seat, says something dramatic, and they keep driving anyway. That single shift, from wait until the fear leaves, to move while it's still talking, is worth more than any productivity hack ever sold. Then they'd start catching the moment right before the sabotage, not after. The email left unsent for just one more day. The workout skipped for a reason that sounds responsible, but smells like relief. That gap, the 10 seconds between the urge to quit and the decision to quit, is the only place change is actually possible. Miss that window, and you're back to explaining it away tomorrow. Someone serious about this would also stop negotiating with perfectionism and start shipping unfinished things on purpose. Not because messy is better, because finished and flawed rewires the brain faster than perfect and hidden ever could. Every time you survive being seen half done, the threat detector recalibrates a little. Do that 50 times, and the fear stops screaming. It just murmurs. And somewhere in there they'd rewrite the internal story, not with affirmations shouted at a mirror, which rarely survive contact with a bad Tuesday, but with evidence. Small, boring, repeated proof. I said I'd show up, and I did. That's it. That's the whole mechanism. Self-esteem isn't built by believing in yourself. It's built by keeping promises to yourself, over and over, until the belief has no choice but to catch up. Self-sabotage isn't cured. It's outgrown, one kept promise at a time. Here's the line worth remembering. The goal was never to silence the fear. It was to stop asking its permission. Because the version of you that finally breaks this loop doesn't feel fearless walking into the room. They just walk in anyway, fear and all. And that's the whole difference between the people who talk about change and the people who quietly become it. Which raises a question I haven't touched yet. If identity is really the thing driving all of this, then the real leverage point isn't fixing your habits at all. It's figuring out exactly which version of yourself you've been unconsciously protecting all along. And that's a much harder, much stranger question than it sounds.